Hey, this is Driver 88, and I have noticed a lot of Ferrari 296 GTBs on the used market for sale at the moment. There seems to be some reason why everyone is selling their car. Recently, we reviewed the F8 Tributo, and I love that car, and a lot of you guys did too. A number of people saying that they would prefer the V8 F8 Tributo over the far newer and more powerful 296 GTB. But there's something niggling at me thinking that potentially this 296 is heavily underappreciated, even though it's only been out for a couple of years. Maybe it's had harsher criticism or not as much enthusiasm about the car that it actually deserves. So we're going to find out for ourselves today, take one for a drive and look at the used market. This is Driver 88. Now there's this recent, phenomenon that comes out with new car design, and every time we see a new car, particularly of course on the internet, everyone absolutely craps on new design. They don't like anything different, and it takes them maybe 2 or 3 years to get used to. The 296 now has been out for 2 or 3 years, and I think time has done it a lot of justice. So much car design these days is all boxy and square and wings. Like BMW, Porsche, they're kind of going for boxy, square, and wings and slits. You know that this is a Ferrari because it has some smoother, more delicate, elegant lines, particularly, of course, the hark back to the 250 LM, which is one of my all-time favorite Ferraris. Of the last 3 Manzoni mid-engine V8 cars, I do prefer the Tributo, and we drove that not long ago. But there's something to be said about this Ferrari. It goes about its way in such just a smooth way. There's a beauty to it and sort of subtlety that I really respect, and I think it's looking better as time goes by. There will be pretty soon, of course, a pista track special soon, but these cars are particularly, maybe in a different color in white, I think, just look so nice. Like the smooth lines here, this sort of wheel arch coming up, you don't see this with cars anymore. It's just really, really pretty, and I like this sort of jet fighter cockpit, quite relatively easy to get in and out of, but maybe not for someone that's a little bit older, which is probably most Ferrari customers. But anyway, it's a bit of a cliche, but when you order a Ferrari today, people, as far as I've heard, you need to be spending 100,000 Australian dollars or at least 50,000 US dollars on options just to get yourself an allocation. This car is really nicely spec'd. It's just the classic red with yellow attainments. So the yellow calipers are an option. These shields are an option. Things that shouldn't be an option, of course, are. So this car needs CarPlay, that's an option. This car needs a front lift, that's an option. This car needs sensors for parking, and that's an option. There's 20 different options on this, one of them being the titanium lugs, which is interesting. We've got a little bit of carbon fiber inside, which I think is essential just to top things off. We've also got, of course, the lovely stitched horsies on the headrests, which I think is always a must. There's one thing about Ferraris, if you choose no options, they do kind of look a little bit bland on the inside in particular, and just a few touches make it look so much better. So the interior of the 296, this is another area where I think the 296 has been a little bit unfairly judged. And part of that reason is people don't like how much technology is in here. But I kind of feel when I'm driving any sort of car, particularly a supercar or sports car, all I want to know is what mode I'm on and do I have CarPlay connected. Once I know what my modes are and I've got CarPlay, things kind of are pretty simple from then on. People have an issue with this sort of navigation system here. I don't think it's that difficult. It's not perfect, but we still have these gorgeous large paddles, the indicators on the steering wheel, a brilliantly thin steering wheel, Manatino switch, and all these buttons. So opening up our front and back boots, and our lift is here, one press, so easy, really, really convenient, lights, etc. I really don't mind it. We sit just a little bit higher than maybe in an F8 Tributo. The screen here, very, very clear, no reflections. I like it in here. These seats are an option, and they come with extra electrics, and you can see out the back quite clearly One of the reasons why the 296 is kind of being discredited, of course, is because of the V6. But having recently driven the Tributo properly, I found that V8 to sound a little bit weird, a little bit characterless, like it needs a catback exhaust. This car kind of sounds raspy and growly instantly from the get-go, even just driving in a normal sport mode. Okay, so once you're in the car, you could definitely drive the 296 every day, as it is, of course, the sort of most used flagship V8 model. It handles bumps, and we have really bad roads here in Victoria. It handles bumps really quite well. The visibility is also quite decent out the back, because we have that really low 120-degree V6 that puts the engine bay super low, so I can see pretty much everything if I'm driving this in traffic. Also, just driving around in sport, the gearbox, I mean, the F8 was fast. This is just out of this world, how quick the gearbox responds to your inputs. We've got 4S's on this car, which is a great middle ground between being too sticky and extreme and still pretty sporty. I've been relatively impressed by the fact that at least we have a bit of turbo noise. In the Tributo, you couldn't really hear much wastegate or induction noise at all. And sure, it's not a 458 wailing V8, but it sounds really, really good. So this car has a full 109 horsepower more than the Tributo. It's warp drive fast. It's absolutely warp drive fast. So if you think about what we just drove in the Tributo, 100 to 200 kilometers per hour turn up in 4.9 seconds. This does it in 4.3 seconds. 0.6 of a second is an absolute multiple car lengths faster than the Tributo. This is out of control fast, and it does it in such an efficient way. Again, it could be a little bit louder. I'm sure maybe Novitec provides a catback for this, but oh my goodness. It's just like, you feel that initial hybridity rush, and then the boost kicks in, and it just kicks you in the face. And I really like the little bit of whooshiness that was kind of missing from the Tributo that I said before. There's 305s on the rear, and it needs it. It needs it. And we only have 245s on the front of this car. So if you've got the cojones, you can put it in ESC off and steer it from the rear. Now this car, even though it's a hybrid, apparently has 740 Newton meters of torque, which is less than the Tributo. But Ferrari lied, like they often do, and when you put it on a dyno, it's making more like 800 Newton meters or 800 horsepower at the wheels and 800 Newton meters at the wheels. So it's making so much more power. Now, one extra thing that I think a lot of people will be interested in is this getting too heavy? Roughly, as far as I can see, it's about 200 kilos heavier than its predecessor. I can definitely feel a bit of weight when we're changing direction. I don't think it's going to bother anyone that's at the wheel of this car. If you're worried about that, ask your Ferrari dealer very kindly for the track-focused version that will be probably imminently coming. So from a standstill now, this is of course a rear-wheel drive car, and the 305s are going to struggle for traction, particularly someone just filming us, particularly when you have this much power on offer. This car will do a mid 9-second pass, and it comes with a warranty and a license. I can't fathom how supercars now, not even the most expensive ones, are doing mid 9 seconds to the quarter mile. And you'll let loose anytime you like. But because I'm in the very police state of Victoria, I can't show you that. I actually prefer the tone of this over the Tributo. Not over a 458, but over the twin turbo V8. There's something really nice and motorsport-esque about the tone of the V6 when it's screaming. I also love the fact that you can rev it out to 8,500 when you're stationary, which you can't do with those Volkswagen products in that other brand. Let's have a quick look at the used market. Now, here in Australia, we have a relatively small market for the 296 GTB. We've just got 6 examples for sale, and sadly, all of them are Rosso Corsa. I wish there was more color choices there, with one in black. Now, we have a retail price of $670,000 here in Australia. Our taxes are enormous, particularly in our state of Victoria. And let's say we average 100 grand on top of that worth of options, so $770,000 after all taxes for the sticker price of a 2025 296 GTB. Across those 6 cars for sale, they average $739,000. So overall, there's a roughly 4% plus depreciation across the asking market at the moment. Now, that doesn't tell much of the story because we are in a quite small controlled market here in Australia. So the depreciation, more than likely, the cars are changing hands at much lower prices than that. But that is nothing compared to what's happening in the rest of the world though. You've got more 296 GTBs for sale currently on DuPont registry than any other Ferrari for sale. 139 of them, and they're going for all sorts of prices, but generally I've seen ones for about low 300,000 mark, but I'm gonna guess, given that there's so many numbers, you could push pretty hard on those prices. When it comes to the UK, the situation is even worse for the 296. So we've got 31 examples, which is multiple times that of Australia, even though the population is only about 3 times the size. And those retail prices are sitting at £300,000 sticker roughly, and they're asking mostly £200,000. So I've seen a 30+% drop on the sticker price of the 296 in the UK, probably more than that. And they're for cars that are pretty much brand new. So a lot of these cars are maybe 18 months old, maybe they have 1,000 miles on them, and they're sitting at 30% plus off sticker price. I think that's a pretty good deal. Like, you're not buying these Ferraris for an investment. It is essentially something to enjoy, and these cars are so damn good. So I think that, you know, the used market, if you're in the market for one, you've got a long 7-year warranty, so many years of worry-free driving ahead of you. There have been, of course, some niggling issues, even though this car's been out for 3 years. People around the traps tell me that there's still niggling issues. I didn't have any issues with the one that I drove today though. It was absolutely fantastic. So the 296 GTB, I think that this car is underappreciated, and I think time will be really grateful to the 296. And I've changed my mind. I think I would have a 296 GTB over the Tributo, as much as I love that car. There's a certain elegance about it, efficiency and beauty about the 296, and a brutal amount of power. This is driver 88, and we'll see you next time.